right fertilizer and bug killers to make the grass a little greener. You'll find it all now at Ace, your place, with everything you need for your yard, plus helpful advice, almost like we're right there. Ace,
the helpful place.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Do you have a question for our guest tonight? Don't feel like calling the show? Not a problem. Email those questions to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Again, that's afterhoursam@gmail.com. Welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me, as always,
Eric Olson.
And tonight we're talking with Laura Bickle. Man,
we're gonna tar her.
I know for the last 3 days. For the last 3 days, I have had the driest throat in the free world. Like. So excuse me while I stumble and bumble a bit over my own chapped lips over here, but we will get through this. I swear to God we will. And Laura, you are such a great author, but I want to go a little bit left to center here and ask you, do you believe in ghosts? I mean, where do you stand on the paranormal? What do you think is real and what's not?
Oh, I think there are all kinds of weird things out there that we can't and probably shouldn't explain entirely. I think the world's just so much more interesting that way. Mm-hmm. I think that, I don't know where that comes from. I think that probably it started with, I think like most teenagers, I had some, ill-fated adventures with the Ouija board and,
Don't we all? Come on. I
mean.
There I was, just me and the Ouija. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I might have partaken in the old talking board when I was a kid more than I should have.
And, I grew up in a rural area. What are you going to do for fun? You go to the mall in Parkersburg, West Virginia, and at the toy store, they had it right there.
It's tip cows and do Ouija boards. That's really all you can do in a rural area.
Yeah, pretty much. There were a lot of, I think, myths about things and legends and stories of where I grew up about, supernatural things. Like there was a hill. It was a forested hill, and this is pretty close to West Virginia, but still on the Ohio side of the Ohio River. And there was this rumor of milling millstones. There were these several 100-pound millstones that were left over from, whenever they were crunching grain or doing whatever it is they do with millstones.
Yeah.
At the top of this hill. And as kids, you go, sneak onto the property and go take a look at it, and, then you come back a few months later, and the millstones would have moved. We're all like, oh, it's the milling millstones, it's the milling millstones.
Gotcha.
And, I figured that it was probably some guy with a, front loader who changed, or an end loader who kind of changed stuff around just to keep us amused. But it was great.
I'll show those kids. They're going to be scared, half senseless, and I'm done with this, let me tell you. Well,
right,
yeah, everybody has that lore, though. I mean, growing up, there was a place when I was growing up we used to call Beer Can Hill. How it got the name, I do not know. So don't even ask. I just know that was the local lore, Beer Can Hill. And there was a house on Beer Can Hill that if you were brave, you would stay a couple hours or even a night for the really brave. I mean, this was a pretty dilapidated house, okay? I'm not saying like it was a nice house at all, but the story goes it has, supposedly crazy haunted, and if you're tough and brave, you could spend a night in Beer Can Hill. It was like a rite of passage, and I did that. I went up to Beer Can Hill. I did, and I stayed a night in Beer Can Hill. And it was definitely a crazy joint. Don't get me wrong. I mean, between the footsteps and everything else, I got scared. I got actually very scared. But what I did wrong was, as me and another guy, well, we said, just drop us off there. Well, come get us in the morning. Oh my God, I wish would not have done that. I wish, because it got real in there. I mean, that was my very first brush with like a haunted house, other than my own I grew up in, but a malevolent, almost feeling haunted house. And of course, when you're in a situation like that, your senses are so much heightened because you're waiting. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because the lore of the place is hitting you now. Everyone else's stories are hitting you. So every little creak and groan and every wind blowing is a ghost. So, I mean, that could have been that. But that was my story, Beer Can Hill. There you go.
I actually lived in a haunted house for 6 months. That was as long as I could last.
Really? Last, you say? Or wow, was it that
was
bad?
As long as I last. Well, it wasn't, I think, as bad as, some of the stories that you hear from people who have really hostile entities hanging out with them.
I have heard those, yes. They're nasty, but I hear you.
Yeah. Usually I don't make bad mistakes about locations, but I was taking a new job. This was I was moving out of the city because I'd had enough of the city, and I was moving to a rural county in Ohio, and I was looking for a house to rent. And I found this house, this brick house in a valley. It was, just a couple years old, recently built. And, the landlord seemed like an okay kind of guy, and the sun was shining, and it was in a meadow, and there was a creek that went through the meadow, and I was like, oh, this is it, this will be perfect.
This is paradise.
This will be a place for me to, right, yeah. For a country girl like me, heck yeah,
Yeah, why not? It sounds beautiful.
It was, and I moved into it, and the air was just totally thick with ladybugs. I mean, it's like the mover said, do you really want us to move your stuff into this Amityville horror house? And I'm like, I don't have any place to put
that was
stuff.
the movers?
You gotta put it in there.
That was the movers saying that to you?
They're like,
wow.
Yeah, they're like, we'll take this stuff and put it someplace else. And I'm like, well, I don't have any place else to put my stuff, whatever.
Wow.
So I was just like, I did battle with the ladybugs, and I was like, okay, fine, this is something that I can, thousands and thousands, and they were everywhere and in everything, and I just, but that probably wasn't supernatural. Things got really weird over the fall and winter. I discovered that this house was less than 2 miles down the road from a mine disaster that had killed like 15 people.
Oh.
And, yeah. And there was a lightning-struck tree on this property that, I was just kind of out walking around. It was kind of in the edge of the woods, and I hadn't seen it when I'd first seen the house. And I was walking around in the dead of winter. And it was half the tree was blackened, and the other half seemed like it had still been alive in the fall. And I looked down into this tree, and it was just seething with this black stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. Wintertime, there wouldn't be snakes. Don't know what that is, but I think I'm not going to deal with this.
Yeah, you may not. You may want to steer clear of that.
Yeah. So, yeah, it wasn't cool. And then, people would come to visit me, my family would come and they would just refuse to stay because they'd have horrible dreams. And it was an oppressive atmosphere. I don't have any really, things to say, stuff moved and the furniture moved around and there was blood on the, nothing like that. It was just a really oppressive atmosphere. And it was like nothing I had ever felt before. And, I've been to a lot of weird places. I mean, hey, I worked in a jail that was supposed to be haunted, okay?
Sure.
The jail was nothing like this.
Well,
so.
even the jail had a lighter atmosphere than that place?
Yes.
Wow,
yes.
that's saying
I stuck it out
something.
for 12 years at the jail, man.
You're tough then, because I'd be in the corner crying within, 10 minutes, at the jail.
No, the thing with the jail is that while there's, unease there's enough human activity at all hours that it's not.
Yeah.
You were distracted.
It keeps things stirred. Yes, it keeps things stirred up, and you're kind of more focused on other things, like, does that guy have a spork or what? In his hand.
You would love our other co-host on Wednesdays, Dr. Cole. She's a forensic psychologist for the state of California. And boy,
cool.
Does she tell tales about life on the inside. And let me tell you, I'm not a guy that could do life on the inside. No. No, first
Me
I
neither.
like privacy when I have to use the facilities, number one. Number two, I don't want to be
Yeah.
stabbed. You know, that's high on my list right there,
Yeah.
is not being stabbed. But that's right behind the privacy thing. So stabbing is number two. But number one is privacy. So, you know, would not do well.
Yeah.
So
No, I'm with you on that entirely. It totally convinced me that I don't even want to spend the night in jail for even something like a traffic infraction or something. No,
Yeah.
do not want to do this. I like being
Right?
on this side.
exactly. And so you worked in the jail, so you're in this house that is thicker and more oppressive than a jail that you worked in. What was the breaking point? What made you move?
I was never able to sleep in that house. I mean, I would do things like I would try to sleep with the television on downstairs, you know, in the living room, and it was a constant feeling, I think, of being watched. This house had a lot of windows, and the previous residents had never put curtains up, and I, of course, put up curtains the first night I was there.
Sure.
But it was just this constant, and it was very still and very silent, and this watching sense. And then my alarm system would go off for no reason at odd times. I mean, it was.
You know,
I put one in.
You know, the
Yeah,
earmarks of a haunting, my friend. The feeling.
Creepy.
Exactly.
I actually got a ticket from the highway patrol on account of my alarm system going off one time, and I was racing home to think, "Oh gosh, what's happened?" And I got nabbed by the highway patrol for speeding, and then they escorted me back to the house.
Oh, that was awfully nice of them. Did they go in? Or did they say, "Oh,
Well-
hell no, we're not going in there"? We heard about that place.
It was a jurisdictional thing. The highway patrol could not actually take me to my house, so he called sheriff's deputies to take me to my house. You know, because I was like,
Gotcha.
"Look, I think that there's somebody breaking into my house. My alarm system is going off." And he was like, "Look, this isn't my jurisdiction, but I should send somebody with you since you've told me this." And I'm like, "Oh, great.
Well, thank
What a total
you.
mess."
Yeah, right?
Clearly,
Right?
a paranormal crime has been committed.
Exactly. So these nice gentlemen, you know, they go into the house and they've got their hands on their guns and whatever, and they search the house and they find nothing, but the alarm is just going off for no reason, and I'm feeling like a total moron, but
I've had the alarms go off, though, when I've had places, you know, with those advanced systems.
Really?
Well, sometimes, but because it was a haunted house. And so the same thing would happen with me is I would get that. And, you know, one thing you never want to do, guys, unless, you know, I mean, some people do it and it's just fine. But in my case, do not install cameras on the inside of your house. You may not want to see what you capture. I'm just saying, a little FYI, you know.
really, what did you see?
I
I
saw.
would know I don't want to
Oh,
see.
we would.
what might be
Well,
captured.
you know, I thought, you know, I had this 8 camera system with a DVR, so I put 4 outside. I thought, well, I got a better idea. I'm gonna put 4 on the inside. So I put in living areas, you know, living room, kitchen, you know, the normals, you know, the normal places. And the weirdest things I would capture on this DVR system, I would see mists that were triggering the motion sensor. You know, just coming by, like meandering by, and I mean, not like a ghost, like you couldn't tell any kind of body figure, but it was just like a mist, just crossing the room. And of course, you know, I'd look at it, I'd show it to other people, like, oh, it could have been humidity, could have been this, could have been that, but really it happened very frequently. And this mist would cross one camera, but then it'd go to the next room and it'd trigger the next one.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, so it was like it was making its way through the home. And so after I did that for a little while, I never saw anything, never felt anything weird, but it was just these cameras that go off. And I think I caught that 2 or 3 different occasions with this mist, this non-humanoid or anything mist, just a mist, would appear and it would make its way through the house. And so at that point, I was thinking, you know what? I'm going to shut off these indoor cameras, and I'll just stick with outdoor ones. Ignorance is bliss, and man, do I like to be blissful.
Me too. Hey, I'd love to shift this sort of combination now of the real world and the really actually very interesting and varied experiences that you've had, but then maybe plugging that back into your writing. Have you ever had any what felt to be, if not paranormal, maybe kind of uncanny experiences while you were writing? And have your characters ever taken on a life of their own?
Well, I keep my characters pretty well, tethered to the page, but I don't know if this counts as a paranormal thing, and hopefully I won't get yelled at for doing this. But one of the things that I do use while writing is our tarot cards. If I get stuck on a plot point, I pull one, or if I'm stuck on the personality of a character, I